There are times in life when we encounter people who intentionally or unintentionally seek to hurt us. They damage you on purpose. They knew exactly what they were doing. They spoke words that cut deep, made decisions that undermined your confidence, and took actions that shattered your spirit. Perhaps they were motivated by jealousy, fear, or the desire to control. But whatever their reasons, the impact was real, and it left you feeling broken, betrayed, and abandoned. But I want to remind you today that no matter how deep the wounds they inflicted, no matter how deliberate their attempts to break you down, they cannot destroy what God has placed within you. You are not defined by what people did to you. You are defined by what God created you to be. You are a masterpiece, fearfully and wonderfully made, and no amount of damage inflicted by others can change that. When Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, they did so with the intention to harm him. They wanted to erase his dreams, to eliminate his potential, and to bury his destiny. But God turned what was meant for evil into something good. You see, people can plan, plot, and even execute their intentions to hurt you, but they cannot override God's plans for your life. They can attempt to damage you, but they cannot destroy the purpose God has embedded in your very being. You may have been hurt, but you are not defeated. You may have been betrayed, but you are not abandoned. You may have been scarred, but you are not destroyed. God is a master using broken pieces to create something beautiful. He takes the fragments of our pain, our rejection, our hurt, and he molds them into a testimony of his grace, power, and love. Your story is not over because someone damaged you. Your story is just beginning. So stand tall, lift your head up, and reclaim your strength. Remember that the damage they inflicted does not define you. It is merely a part of your journey, a chapter in your book, and God is still writing the rest. Do not let bitterness take root in your heart. Do not allow anger or resentment to steal your peace. Instead, allow God to use every wound, every scar, and every hurt to elevate you to a place where his glory is revealed in your life. Forgive those who damaged you, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Release them from your heart, not because it makes what they did okay, but because it frees you to walk in the fullness of what God has for you. Remember, no one can take from you what God has ordained for you. They may have damaged you, but they did not define you. God is the one who defines you, and he says you are blessed, you are chosen, you are loved, and you are his. Trust in his process, lean into his promises, and watch how he turns every act meant to damage you into a stepping stone for your destiny. They may have damaged you intentionally, but God will use it to bless you beyond measure. Denying the reality of the pain you've experienced, the hurt that has been inflicted upon you was deliberate and calculated. They knew exactly what they were doing when they spoke those harsh words, when they made those decisions behind your back, when they manipulated situations to see you falter. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was an intentional act to break your spirit, to cause you to question your worth, to make you feel small, unworthy, and unlovable. The pain of betrayal, of being undermined, or of being used, those are not wounds that heal overnight. It's important to acknowledge that what you went through was real. Too often we try to bury our pain, ignore it, or act like it didn't happen. But suppressing it only causes it to fester and grow. We can't heal what we don't acknowledge. You have to confront the reality that they damaged you on purpose. They aimed at your heart, at your confidence, at your identity, and they succeeded in causing hurt. And it is okay to admit that it hurt deeply. Acknowledge the sleepless nights, the tears that fell, the feeling of betrayal that kept you awake. Recognize the moments when you felt utterly alone, questioning your worth, your value, and your place in this world. It is okay to admit that the pain was overwhelming, that it knocked the wind out of you, that it caused you to stumble, to doubt, to fear. It is okay to say, yes, I am hurting, because healing begins with truth. And the truth is, they damaged you intentionally. But know this: acknowledging your pain is not a sign of weakness. It is a declaration of your humanity. It is the first step toward reclaiming your strength. Admitting that you've been hurt is not surrendering to the pain. It's refusing to allow that pain to define you or dictate your future. Acknowledging it allows you to start the process of healing, to allow God to meet you right where you are in the midst of your brokenness and begin to do the work of restoration. It is crucial to understand that those who intentionally damaged you did not do so without reason. They may have acted out of jealousy, seeing something in you that threatened them, your light, your potential, your promise. They might have been intimidated by the greatness they sensed within you, even if you could not see it in yourself. Sometimes people will try to dim your light simply because it shines too brightly for their comfort. They saw the gifts, the talents, and the favor on your life, and rather than celebrate it, they chose to tear it down. Maybe their actions were driven by fear of losing control, fear of their own inadequacies being exposed by your excellence, fear of change, or fear that you might surpass them. When people are insecure about their place in life, they often project those insecurities onto others. They try to belittle you to keep you small so they can feel bigger. It is their fear that fueled their actions, not your lack of worth or capability. There may have been those who sought to control you, who used their words or actions as weapons to manipulate and manage your steps. They wanted to mold you to fit their expectations, to keep you confined within the limitations of their vision for your life. They knew the power of their influence and they wielded it with precision, hoping to bend your will, to crush your spirit, to make you conform. They may have done it out of a desire to dominate, to keep you dependent, to make you doubt yourself so they could always feel needed or superior. But here is the truth: their motives, no matter how deep or dark, have nothing to do with who you are or what you are worth. Their actions were a reflection of their own brokenness, their own fears, their own insecurities. It was never about you, it was about them. You see, people will often project their pain onto others, trying to control what they cannot control within themselves. They may have damaged you, but it was their own damage, their own unhealed wounds and unresolved conflicts that drove them to act as they did. Understanding this does not excuse their behavior, but it helps you to see it for what it truly is: a desperate attempt to fill their void, to calm their fears, to address their inadequacies. They did it intentionally, yes, but it was born out of their own struggles, their own lack of peace. They saw something in you that they lacked in themselves, and instead of being inspired by it, they chose to attack it. Recognizing their motives helps you to take back your power. It shifts the narrative from what's wrong with me to what was wrong with them. It allows you to see that their actions were not a verdict on your value, but a window into their own pain and brokenness. It gives you the perspective you need to rise above, to forgive, and to move forward, knowing that what they did says more about them than it ever could about you. Even though they may have hurt you deliberately, their actions do not have the final say over your life. People may plot, scheme, and intentionally try to damage you, but their plans are nothing compared to the plans God has for you. When God has ordained a purpose for your life, no human intention, no weapon formed against you, and no plot against your destiny can prevail. The damage they intended may have seemed devastating, but it is not the end of your story. God's plan for you is greater, deeper, and more powerful than any scheme designed to harm you. Think about Joseph, who was betrayed by his own brothers. They plotted against him, sold him into slavery, and left him for dead, hoping to erase his dreams and extinguish his future. Yet what they did not know was that every step back, every hardship was a part of God's divine plan to elevate Joseph to a position far greater than they could have ever imagined. What they meant for evil, God turned into good. He used their actions to place Joseph exactly where he needed to be to fulfill his destiny. You see, God's plan is always greater than man's intentions. God sees beyond the pain and the betrayal. He knows how to turn every wound into wisdom, every trial into triumph, and every stumbling block into a stepping stone. The very things that were meant to destroy you, He will use to develop you, to build your character, to strengthen your faith, and to prepare you for the greatness that He has in store for you. God's plan is always bigger than the human mind can comprehend. His purpose is to prosper you, to give you hope, and to provide you with a future that exceeds your expectations. You may have been damaged, but you are not defeated. You may have been hurt, but you are not hopeless. The plans of man can never overrule the plans of God. When God says you are chosen, no one can unchoose you. When He declares that you are blessed, no one can curse you. When He has set a course for your life, no one can derail it. God's purpose is unstoppable, unshakable, and immovable. It stands firm through every storm, every attack, and every scheme of the enemy. Trust that even in your pain, God is working. Even when you can't see it, He is moving things in your favor. Even when you feel like you're surrounded by enemies, remember that you are surrounded by God's love, and His plans for you are greater than any plan against you. He is the master architect of your life, and He knows how to take every broken piece and build something beautiful. Believe that His plan for you is still intact, despite the damage others tried to cause. He is the God who makes all things new, who restores what was lost, who heals what was broken, and who lifts up those who have been cast down. They may have damaged you intentionally, but God's plan will not be deterred. Trust in his purpose for you and know that his plans will always prevail over every scheme designed to harm you. You are not defined by the damage others tried to cause you. You are not the sum of the wounds you've endured, nor are you the broken pieces left behind by someone else's cruelty or carelessness. The hurt they inflicted does not determine your identity or your worth. The words they spoke, the actions they took, the betrayal you faced, these do not define who you are. You are more than what has happened to you. You are more than the pain you have felt. People may have tried to label you based on your pain, but those labels do not have power over you. They may have called you weak, unworthy, unlovable, or damaged goods. They may have tried to define you by your lowest moments, your mistakes, or the challenges you faced. But let me tell you, their words and actions do not have the final say. Your true identity comes from the one who created you, the one who knows you intimately, and the one who has declared you valuable, chosen, and loved. You are defined by God's truth, not by man's judgment. God does not see you as broken, he sees you as whole. He does not see you as damaged, he sees you as destined. You are fearfully and wonderfully made, crafted with care, purpose, and divine intention. No amount of damage can change that. Your value is intrinsic, unshakable, and everlasting because it is rooted in God himself. Remember, diamonds are formed under pressure and pearls are created from irritation. It is often in the deepest struggles and most intense pain that the most beautiful things are born. Your pain is not a reflection of who you are, but rather a sign of the strength that resides within you. It is proof that you have survived, that you have endured, and that you are still standing. The cracks in your heart are not signs of defeat. They are evidence of resilience. Think about the story of Job. He lost everything, his family, his wealth, his health. He was damaged in every way imaginable, but those losses did not define him. God saw beyond his pain and restored him double for his trouble. Job's value was never diminished by the damage he endured. In fact, it was through his suffering that God's glory was revealed in a greater measure. The same is true for you. Do not let your scars define you. Let them remind you of your strength. Do not let the damage make you feel unworthy or incapable. Know that you are still whole, still valuable, still chosen, and still capable of fulfilling the purpose God has for you. Your worth was established long before anyone tried to harm you, and it remains intact no matter what others have done to you. God sees you through the lens of his love and grace, not through the lens of your past or your pain. He calls you his child, his masterpiece, his beloved. That is who you are. So stand tall and declare with confidence that you are not defined by the damage. You are defined by the one who made you, by the one who loves you, and by the one who holds your future in his hands. The damage they intended for you does not have to be the end of your story. In fact, that very damage can be transformed into a source of immense strength. What they meant to break you can become the foundation on which you build your resilience, your courage, and your determination. When you learn to turn damage into strength, you are taking back the power that was taken from you. You are refusing to be a victim of your circumstances and choosing instead to rise above them. Every experience of pain, every moment of betrayal, and every wound inflicted can become a tool in your growth and transformation. Just as a seed must be buried in darkness before it can sprout into life, sometimes we must endure the darkness of hurt and damage before we can truly grow into the fullness of who we are meant to be. The damage was not meant to define you, it was meant to refine you. God uses these experiences to shape you, to sharpen you, to mold you into a stronger, more compassionate, and more resilient person. Think of the gold that is refined by fire. It goes through an intense process of heating and melting, and it is only through this fiery trial that all impurities are burned away, leaving behind pure, precious gold. Your pain is like that fire. It may be hot, it may be intense, but it is also purifying. It is removing what is not necessary. It is burning away what does not serve you, and it is revealing the beauty and strength that lies within. What you went through is not the end. It is the beginning of a new chapter where your strength is unveiled. God can take every bit of damage and use it to build you up. He can take the broken pieces and craft them into something even more beautiful. He can transform your wounds into wisdom, your scars into strength, and your pain into power. Those who damaged you thought they were weakening you, but in reality, they were setting the stage for your greatest comeback. They were unknowingly participating in a divine process of transformation where your weaknesses become your strengths. Look at the Apostle Paul, who faced countless trials, persecutions, and suffering. He was beaten, imprisoned, and shipwrecked. Yet Paul did not allow these experiences to weaken his spirit. Instead, he turned every adversity into an opportunity to showcase the power of God within him. He declared that in his weakness, God's strength was made perfect. Paul's trials became his testimonies, and his pain became his platform to preach hope and resilience to the world. What was meant to silence him only amplified his voice. You too have the power to turn your damage into strength. Start by refusing to see yourself as a victim. Recognize that every difficult experience has a lesson and a purpose. Use those lessons to grow, to evolve, and to become stronger. Don't let your pain be in vain. Let it be the fuel that propels you toward your destiny. Embrace your scars, for they are a testament to your survival. Wear them as badges of honor, knowing that they signify not just what you have been through, but how you have overcome. Turn your damage into strength by choosing forgiveness over bitterness, faith over fear, and love over hate. Each time you choose to rise above, each time you choose to forgive, each time you choose to keep moving forward despite the pain, you are turning your damage into strength. You are declaring that you are not what happened to you, you are what you choose to become. Remember, a tree that has weathered many storms has deeper roots. It stands firm, not because it was never battered, but because every storm taught it how to dig deeper, how to hold on stronger. You are like that tree. Every trial, every hardship, every piece of damage has given you roots that run deep, roots that will hold you steady, no matter what comes your way. So stand strong. Turn the damage into strength. Let the very things that were meant to break you become the things that build you. Let the pain push you closer to your purpose. Let the hurt make you humble, the rejection make you resilient, and the damage make you determined. Remember, you are not defined by what they did to you. You are defined by how you rise from it. And with God on your side, you will always rise stronger. When others intentionally damage you, it can feel like all is lost. The pain, the betrayal, and the wounds seem too deep to heal, too raw to overcome. But there is a power greater than any hurt or harm inflicted upon you, God's transformative power. His power can take the brokenness and turn it into beauty, the ashes and turn them into glory, the sorrow and turn it into joy. What was meant to destroy you becomes the very thing God uses to elevate you. God's transformative power is unlike anything in this world. It takes what is damaged and makes it whole. It takes what is shattered and makes it stronger. When God steps into your situation, he doesn't just repair what was broken, he transforms it into something far greater than it was before. He turns your pain into purpose, your wounds into wisdom, your trials into testimonies, and your setbacks into setups for something more significant. Think of the story of Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused and thrown into prison. Joseph experienced damage that was both intentional and severe. But God's transformative power was at work even in those darkest moments. Through every betrayal and hardship, God was molding Joseph into the man he needed to be. He was preparing Joseph for a position of authority, a place where he could save not only his family, but an entire nation. God's power transformed Joseph's suffering into a powerful testimony of his grace and provision. The very things meant to destroy him became the stepping stones to his destiny. The same transformative power is available to you. God can take every bit of damage, the hurtful words, the betrayals, the losses, and use them for his glory. He can take the mess and make it a message. God specializes in using what the world sees as useless, broken, or beyond repair, and transforming it into something extraordinary. His power is limitless. He is able to do exceedingly and abundantly more than you could ever ask or imagine. What you see as a setback, God sees as a setup for something far greater. Remember the story of Ruth. After losing her husband and facing an uncertain future, Ruth could have easily given in to despair. She could have allowed the damage and loss to define her. But God's transformative power was at work. Ruth chose to remain faithful, to trust God's plan even in her pain, and as a result, God placed her in the lineage of Jesus Christ. What seemed like an ending was only the beginning of something magnificent. Her story is a powerful reminder that no matter how damaged or broken you feel, God's power can turn your situation around. Do not underestimate the power of God to change your circumstances. Do not limit what he can do with the pieces of your life that seem shattered beyond repair. He is the potter and you are the clay. He can take what is marred and make it beautiful again. He can mold you, shape you, and transform you into a vessel of honor and purpose. He can use your deepest pain to reveal his greatest glory. God's transformative power means that nothing is wasted. Every tear, every trial, every ounce of pain can be turned into something meaningful. He can use your experiences to strengthen you, to build your character, and to prepare you for the next season of your life. He turns your mourning into dancing, your sorrow into joy. His power works in ways we cannot always see or understand, but he is always at work, transforming and redeeming every part of your story. Trust in God's power to transform your pain. Surrender your brokenness to him and watch how he takes the pieces and makes them into something beautiful. Know that he is not just a healer, he is a redeemer. He will not only heal your wounds, but use them to show the world what his love and grace can do. You are not defined by the damage, but by the divine power at work in you. You are a living testimony of God's ability to transform even the worst situations into a demonstration of his glory and goodness. So let go of the hurt and trust in his transformative power. Believe that he is working everything out for your good, even when it doesn't feel like it. Allow him to transform your pain into purpose, your wounds into wisdom, and your scars into stars that guide others to him. Remember, there is nothing too broken for God to restore, nothing too damaged for him to redeem, and nothing too lost for him to find and make new again. When others have damaged you intentionally, it is natural to feel bitterness and resentment. The hurt they cause can weigh heavily on your heart, leaving you feeling angry, betrayed, and wounded. But holding on to bitterness and resentment only binds you to the very pain you wish to escape. These emotions can become a prison, trapping you in a cycle of anger and hurt, preventing you from moving forward. To truly heal and step into the freedom that God has for you, you must release the bitterness and resentment that weigh you down. Letting go of bitterness and resentment is not about excusing what was done to you or pretending the pain does not exist. It is about choosing to break free from the chains of unforgiveness. When you hold on to bitterness, you allow the actions of others to have continued control over your life. You give them the power to dictate your emotions, your thoughts, and even your future. But you were created to live in freedom, not in the bondage of anger and resentment. God calls us to forgive not because the offense was small, but because he knows that forgiveness is the key to our freedom. When you release bitterness, you are not saying that what happened was okay. You are saying that you refuse to let it define you. You refuse to let the actions of others have power over your peace, your joy, and your purpose. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, a gift that releases you from the past and opens the door to healing. Think about Jesus on the cross. As he hung there, battered and bruised, he looked upon those who had caused his suffering and said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." In that moment, Jesus showed us that forgiveness is an act of strength, not weakness. He chose to release bitterness even in his deepest pain because he understood that forgiveness is the path to freedom and the fulfillment of God's purpose. Releasing bitterness and resentment allows God's healing power to flow into your life. It makes room for his peace to settle in your heart, for his love to fill the broken places, and for his grace to transform your pain. When you let go of resentment, you are allowing God to be the righteous judge. You are trusting him to handle the situation in his way and in his time. You are putting your faith in his justice rather than trying to take matters into your own hands. Remember that bitterness and resentment are like poison. They may feel justified, but they only serve to harm you, not the person who hurt you. They cloud your vision, steal your joy, and hinder your spiritual growth. But when you choose to release them, you open yourself to God's healing. You allow his light to shine in the darkest corners of your heart. You invite his peace to replace the pain. Releasing bitterness also means choosing to love yourself enough to let go. It means acknowledging that you deserve to live in peace, not in the turmoil of resentment. You deserve to walk in freedom, not in the shadows of past hurts. You are worthy of a future that is not defined by what was done to you, but by the destiny God has for you. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, but it does mean freeing. It means taking back your power, reclaiming your peace, and trusting God to handle the rest. It is a decision to rise above the hurt and to refuse to let the actions of others dictate your life any longer. It is a choice to move forward, to grow, and to thrive. So release the bitterness and resentment. Let them go and watch how God begins to heal your heart, restore your joy, and renew your strength. Trust that He will bring justice where it is due, and that He will use every experience, even the painful ones, for your ultimate good. Remember, you are not what happened to you. You are who God says you are. And He says you are free, you are loved, and you are whole. Choose to walk in that freedom today. Forgiveness is not just a word, it is an act of liberation, a choice that leads to true freedom. When others have damaged you intentionally, forgiveness can seem impossible, even unjust. You may feel that forgiving them means excusing their actions or letting them off the hook for the pain they caused. But forgiveness is not about them, it is about you. It is about setting yourself free from the chains of the past so that you can move forward into the life God has planned for you. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door to freedom. It frees you from the heavy burden of anger, bitterness, and resentment. When you forgive, you release yourself from the prison of pain that others have tried to keep you in. You are choosing to no longer be defined by what happened to you, but by how you rise above it. You are choosing to let go of the bitterness that holds you back and instead embrace the peace that God offers. Forgiveness is not an emotion, it is a decision. It is a deliberate choice to say, I will not allow what they did to me to control my life any longer. It is deciding to trust God with your pain, to give it to Him and let Him deal with it in His perfect way. Forgiveness is an act of faith, believing that God can heal what is broken, restore what was lost, and make all things new. Look at the story of Stephen in the book of Acts. As he was being stoned to death, he looked up to heaven and asked God to forgive those who were killing him. He knew that forgiveness was the pathway to peace, even in the most painful of circumstances. Stephen understood that his freedom was not tied to the actions of others, but to his choice to forgive. In his final moments, he experienced a divine peace that surpassed all understanding, a peace that came from knowing he had forgiven and released those who meant to harm him. Forgiveness is a powerful tool that God has given us to live in freedom. When you forgive, you are not condoning the actions of those who hurt you. Instead, you are choosing to free yourself from the power those actions have over your life. You are taking back control, choosing peace over pain, and allowing God to work through you. Forgiveness is also a form of self-love. It is recognizing that you deserve to live in peace and joy, not in the turmoil of resentment. You deserve to be free from the emotional bondage that comes with holding on to grudges. When you forgive, you are saying to yourself, I love myself enough to let go of what is hurting me. I am choosing to move forward, to grow and to heal. Remember, Jesus taught us to forgive not just once, but 70 times 7. He knew that forgiveness is not a one-time act, but a continual process. It is a daily decision to let go of the offense, to release the hurt, and to trust God with the outcome. He knew that without forgiveness, our hearts could become hardened and our spirits could become heavy with the weight of unhealed wounds. Forgiveness is an act of strength, not weakness. It takes great courage to forgive those who have hurt you deeply. But in doing so, you are aligning yourself with God's heart, with His love and His grace. You are becoming more like Him, embodying His character and living out His command to love even your enemies. And in that act of obedience, there is immense freedom. So choose forgiveness, not for them, but for you. Forgive because you want to be free. Forgive because you refuse to let the damage done to you define your destiny. Forgive because you trust in a God who heals, who restores, and who makes all things new. When you forgive, you are not just releasing others, you are releasing yourself into the fullness of life that God has for you. Forgiveness may not always be easy, but it is always worth it. It is the bridge that takes you from the pain of the past into the promise of a brighter future. It is the door through which healing walks in and bitterness walks out. It is the path to freedom, to peace, and to a life that is no longer held captive by the actions of others. Choose to forgive and choose to be free. When others intentionally damage you, it can feel like your identity and purpose are under attack. Their actions may leave you questioning who you are and what you are meant to do. They may have tried to diminish your sense of self-worth and cloud your vision of your purpose. But no matter what has happened to you, your identity and purpose remain intact, and it is up to you to reclaim them. Reclaiming your identity starts with understanding that you are not defined by the damage done to you. You are not what others say you are, nor are you the sum of their criticisms or betrayals. Your true identity is rooted in who God says you are. You are a child of God, created in his image, fearfully and wonderfully made. Your value is inherent and unshakable, regardless of the hurt inflicted upon you. The opinions of others do not alter the truth of your worth. Recognize that you have been uniquely designed with gifts, talents, and a divine purpose. Your purpose is not contingent on the approval or acceptance of others, but on the divine plan God has for your life. The damage they caused may have wounded you, but it cannot erase the calling on your life. It cannot diminish the unique contributions you are meant to make in this world. Reclaiming your purpose means reaffirming your commitment to the vision God has placed in your heart, despite the setbacks. Think of Joseph once again. Despite being betrayed by his brothers and imprisoned unjustly, Joseph did not lose sight of his purpose. He continued to use his gifts, interpret dreams, and serve faithfully, even in the darkest of circumstances. His identity and purpose were not lost in his trials. They were refined and elevated. By the time he was elevated to a position of great authority, he was prepared and equipped to fulfill his purpose with wisdom and grace. Joseph's story reminds us that our identity and purpose can withstand even the greatest of adversities. Reclaiming your identity also involves rejecting the lies and negative labels that others may have tried to place upon you. They may have tried to tell you that you are not enough, that you are broken beyond repair, or that you will never achieve your dreams. But these are lies designed to keep you from realizing your full potential. Your identity is not determined by these lies, but by the truth of God's word. Stand firm in who you are in Christ and reject any identity that is based on the hurt and harm others have inflicted upon you. Purpose often emerges from pain and adversity. The trials you have faced can become the backdrop for the very purpose you are meant to fulfill. Your experiences, though painful, can give you a unique perspective and compassion that equips you to help others who are facing similar struggles. The damage done to you can become a powerful testimony of God's redemption and grace. Your purpose may very well be intertwined with the healing and restoration you have experienced. Reclaiming your purpose also means taking proactive steps to align your life with the vision God has given you. It means setting goals, pursuing dreams, and living out your calling with courage and conviction. Even in the face of challenges, you have the power to move forward and make choices that reflect your true identity and purpose. Engage in activities that bring you joy, seek out opportunities to serve others, and surround yourself with people who affirm your worth and support your journey. Lastly, reclaiming your identity and purpose requires you to embrace the truth that you are a work in progress. Healing and growth take time, and it is okay to be on a journey of discovering and living out your full potential. Be patient with yourself and trust in the process. Each step you take towards reclaiming your identity and purpose is a step towards greater fulfillment and joy. Remember, the damage inflicted upon you does not have the power to define you or deter your purpose. You have the strength and the divine support to rise above the hurt and walk confidently in your true identity and purpose. Reclaim what was rightfully yours, your worth, your calling, and your destiny. Embrace the truth of who you are and move forward with the assurance that your life has great value and purpose. With God's guidance and strength, you can overcome the damage and shine brightly in the fullness of your true self.